Okay, we'll start with learning the alphabet. Now, one of the challenges for everyone learning Greek or any foreign language is that most of us were raised not really taught grammar. So you might be fluent in English, but you may not know Greek grammar. You might not even know basic terms like subject, object, direct object, etc. So the textbook has a really good summary of English grammar in the back. So even though it was published by Cambridge and England, even in England, people don't know English grammar anymore. So that's a very helpful resource in the back of the textbook. Okay, now let's start with the alphabet, of course. The alphabet in Greek is different than English. So we'll start with the lowercase, or minuscules, they're sometimes called, the lowercase letters. Originally, the New Testament was written only in uppercase letters, uncials, and no separation between the words, no punctuation, no paragraph indentation, none of that. It was just one continuous line of letters. So of course that made for challenging reading. If you're ever in a museum like the British Museum or many other museums, some of them have copies of ancient texts of the Bible, especially 4th century. In the 4th century, Constantine the Great ordered 50 copies of the Bible to be made, and then they were produced at the famous monastery of St. Catherine's in the Sinai, not on the Sinai Peninsula. Yes. Where are they? In the Sinai. So some of the museums have those, and if you go in the museum, often they'll have them in a glass case with it open and tell you what it is, and you can see what the text look like. So ancient manuscripts of the Bible are called either uncials, which were usually written on papyrus. So if you see a reference to ancient manuscripts, they'll have a P for papyrus, which is the Greek word for paper. It was made from the papyrus plant. It's like a reeded plant that grows along the banks of the Nile. And you just make paper from that, which they did. But paper, of course, is not terribly durable. Where the papyrus has survived, it's been in places like Egypt, where there's a very dry climate. But later they started using leather, vellum, and that's much more durable, of course, and started writing the text only in lowercase letters, minuscules. Again, no separation of words, no punctuation. All of those things that make reading a document makes it easier these days, came over a period of centuries. Years ago, I went to a wonderful exhibit at the Newberry Library in Chicago. They have an amazing collection of rare books. And it's free and accessible if you can demonstrate that you've exhausted resources everywhere else, and it's only the Newberry that has something you need to look at. Well, they had an exhibit illustrating from their collection when a punctuation was first introduced into books, when words were first separated, and when paragraph indentation was introduced, etc. All of these developments took centuries. We are the beneficiaries of that because modern printed editions of the Greek New Testament have word separation, of course, and punctuation. The Greeks did not use lowercase and uppercase at the same time. So as we do now in modern European languages, we write in lowercase and use uppercase for proper nouns, names, beginning of sentences, etc. Modern editions of the Greek New Testament follow that pattern. So they are mostly printed in lowercase letters and then uppercase, beginning of sentences and the like. Not even always the beginning of sentences, but at any rate they do. They use uppercase, however, for the titles of books. So we'll start by learning the lowercase letters for the alphabet, and then the uppercase. You need to know uppercase to find your way around the Greek New Testament, because at the top of the page, the title of the book will be the title of the book in Greek, and it'll be uppercase. So anyway, start with the lowercase. Alpha looks like a little fat fish. What we need to know about the alphabet is how to write the letters, what their name is, and if I pronounce the name of the letter properly, it also tells me the sound that the word makes. So that's alpha, alpha. Beta, beta starts below the line, comes here like it's had too much to drink last night. Alpha, beta, beta, gamma. Now where we would expect a C in English, Greek doesn't really have a C, there's a gamma, G. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, delta, epsilon, epsilon, zeta. Some people make a zeta like that. Zeta, zeta, eta. Now this eta is transliterated as an E with a long mark over it. We pronounce it eta. Zeta, eta, theta. Theta, theta. I don't know what a theta tastes like. You have to ask the zeta who ate a theta. These silly ways, silly things help us remember things. I remember when I was taking Hebrew at Trinity Seminary, the prof said to help us remember the Hebrew word which means go down, which is yarad. He said, you get in yarad and you go downtown, meaning your hot rod. So these ridiculous ways help us remember things. So remember zeta, eta, theta. It tasted like a pizza from Naples. Zeta, eta, theta, iota. Now that's a Greek I. It doesn't have a dot over it, and it's pronounced iota. Sometimes it's a short sound, iota. It is never iota. We sometimes say, especially if it's a fraternity, sorority that has Greek letters, they'll say iota. Greek never said iota. It would be iota, iota, kappa, kappa, lambda, which looks like a teeter-totter with a fat kid on one side. Kappa, lambda, moo. I grew up on a farm. That's the sound of a cow. Moo, nu. That's cow with a hair lip. Moo, nu, omicron, omicron. It's a short O sound, hence the micron of the name, omicron. There's a little O and there's a big O. Omicron. P, again, not pi. In Greek, they would say this is the name of it. P. P, iota, P, iota, not pi. Rho, rho is actually an RH sound. You put an H at a hard. P, rho, rho, sigma. There are two forms of the sigma. This and this one. This comes at the end of a word. So, this is the word save, has this sigma at the beginning of a word. This is a word for word, logos, and it has what's called the final sigma. Then tau, tau, upsilon. Upsilon, that's a U sound. I just dropped it. Upsilon, oo. Sigma, tau, upsilon, phi. PH sound. Greek doesn't have an H, except as its H is embedded in the phi, PH, or embedded in the theta, TH. But it doesn't have a separate H sound, a letter. It does have a breathing mark. We'll get to that later. Phi, ki. Now, Greek has the K, which is a K sound. It has the chi, which looks like an X that sort of fall under the line. It's not an X, it's a CH sound, a hard CH, as in Christos. There's both sigmas in the word for Christ, beginning with a ki. CH. V, ki, psi is PS, as in psychology. C, P, V, K, C, then omega. This is big O, mega O, omega. Short O, omicron, long O, omega. Now your textbook has all these written out. I did this only because sometimes it's hard to figure out how to write a letter from the textbook. Anyway, this is the first thing we need to master. Okay, continuing with the alphabet, I need to make a correction. Paul, my assistant, reminded me I left out the letter Xi. This is like an X. It's the Greek X, and it's made, you make it sort of like a backwards 3. That's Xi. Mu, M, Nu, Xi, then Omicron. So, sorry I left this out. Now, of course, I have to make a few mistakes to keep myself humble. You know, like Paul, who was given a thorn in the flesh, lest he be too exalted. So I might become too exalted because I have a PhD from the most prestigious university in Scotland, founded in 1411. And I was a full professor and tenured and all the rest of it. Grossly underpaid, but, you know, had all those other things. So to keep me humble, I made a mistake. Any questions?